Hey, hello, come here, donkeys. Here we go.
Welcome back. Last episode we looked at the blue board, so naturally we gotta look at the red one now. You've heard of the red guy, you've heard of the red square, you've heard of red fox. I'd like to think at this point you're familiar enough with red things that you'll know what's going on here. So join us on this journey to a land most joyous and convivial. Truly this will be the greatest thing that's ever happened to anybody. A pure endorphin rush, a sugar rush of colors and sounds and lights, the likes of which have never been seen. What the hell am I even saying? So anyway, just like with actual Pokemon Red and Blue, there are very few differences between the red and blue boards. It's mostly just a difference of aesthetics. And of course there's a difference in which Pokemon show up in the catching minigame, as one would expect. And the other key difference is how you do the evolutions. There's that Ditto on the top half of the screen. You have to get the ball past him into that hole. That's how you do evolutions, which is quite difficult, as one would expect. So yeah, some pinball games have proper scrolling between the upper half of the board and the lower half, and then others they'll just cut to white or black for a second, depending on what the system can do. Most famously, there was an example of a system that had both types of pinball games, because they learned how to do more with the system over time. It was, first there was Alien Crush for the TurboGrafx 16. That was an early TurboGrafx game, and they didn't think that the TurboGrafx could do scrolling back then, so they would just have a cut to black in between halves of the board. But then the sequel, A Devil's Crush, on the very same system, that was a later TurboGrafx 16 game, where they understood the hardware better, and that one did have scrolling. So yeah, there's some gaming trivia for you. Life-changing stuff. There goes the ball. Won't be the same without him around, that's for true. I got plenty of hits on the saver. Let's see if that adds up to anything. Ooh, now we're talking. Yes, indeed, that saver is definitely the crux of getting good at this game. On the sequel Pokemon Pinball game, I think I managed to get my high score over 1 billion. That's 1 billion with a B. It's a lot easier to play these types of games on real hardware without that extra 5 frames of lag on the flippers. Anyway, so you might have noticed that occasionally when you hit the Pikachu saver, that there's actually some audio sampling in the game. They actually recorded the famous Pikachu scream and put it on a Game Boy cart. And believe me, that was not easy to do back then. Cartridge games were extremely limited in terms of space, and audio sampling was only used if they just absolutely positively needed it. And that really tells us a lot about the development of this game. Putting the audio of the Pikachu scream in this wasn't just some casual thing they thought of in 5 seconds. That was a deliberate act that they advocated for, because it could not be added with ease. Pokemon Yellow also had it in there, because you could talk to the Pikachu that was following you around, and they had his little Pikachu noises that he would make. They really used to put effort into these things. See, that's the thing I was talking about. Small details to enhance the experience. You guys ever play Pokemon XD? Just thinking about that recently, and the translation was kinda bad in some spots. I don't know what got screwed up there, but there were a few characters that would just refer to themselves in the third person, and kinda seemed like it was written by somebody who doesn't speak English natively. You'd have characters saying nonsensical phrases like, Chauvin thinks that Chauvin is the best. They could have tried a little harder on the translation, but we're not playing Pokemon XD, are we? That's not what you want to hear about. Okay, who we got next? Ooh, Charmander. That's a rare one. You know, in the official lore of the series, if the Charmander's flame on its tail goes out, it will canonically die, which raises many questions about how the world of Pokemon works and if death is a very real thing in this jovial and happy world. What does that mean? What does that imply? That brings up so many questions. Yeah. Speaking of Pokemon and death, where's he going with this? Did you ever see that scary PSA that they put on TV back in the day about that Pokeball toy from Burger King that was a choking hazard? I don't remember seeing it on TV personally, but I've seen YouTube videos of it and such, and spooky stuff. Oh look, we're going to Ketchum mode again already. We are on a roll. But anyway, yeah, apparently there was a kid that choked on the Pokeball from the Burger King toy, and they had to make commercials for it on TV to warn other parents, and that was just the sort of thing that happened back in the day. Not just back in the day, even to this day, occasionally, there's safety recalls and such. I know my younger brother was big into Thomas the Tank Engine, and there was a safety recall on those, because the ones that were painted red, they had lead paint on them. I don't think any of the ones my brother owned necessarily had the lead paint, but we were just being cautious, and oh, that's a red one, we gotta get this shit out of here, and gotta chuck it in the St. Lawrence River, where it can't hurt anyone ever again. I don't know. Making decent progress towards catching Poliwag. You know, in the super early days of the Pokemon franchise, they tried to make Poliwhirl the main Pokemon instead of Pikachu. It sounds like total hogwash, but it's true. When you look at the early marketing materials, a Poliwhirl was featured very prominently. This would have been so early in the franchise history that this was before the anime even, before they settled into Pikachu as the representative. It's always a bit of a challenge to, figure out which character's gonna be the face of the franchise. In a series where you've got over 100 characters and they're all more or less on equal ground. I know Monster Rancher had a similar issue to that, where the developers wanted Mochi to be like the face of Monster Rancher, but the marketing team would always slap Suazo's face on the box, and much to their chagrin. I guess on some level the Monster Rancher developers have kind of caved to that, because that Monkey Ball game that they had a couple of years ago, they had Suazo as a DLC character instead of Mochi, so I guess they've just kind of accepted Suazo as the face of the franchise. What the heck ever happened to Monster Rancher? That used to be a big thing. They even had an anime about it. And not just some obscure Japan-only anime, it was internationally released. It had a full English translation that was on Fox Kids. Think about the implications of that. A bunch of 50-year-old men in suits looked at Monster Rancher and thought, oh yeah, that's a thing I recognize. This is worthy of putting on American television. Anyway, there's also a Pokédex in here. Look at this. They absolutely did not have to put this in here, but they did. They went the extra mile.